The Libra new moon is here, ruled by Venus in her domicile in Libra. What more could you want? This looks like a gorgeous lunation, one that's going to restore order and peace and give us some sweetness in our life. And certainly that may be true, but this lunation is also going to test our peace in a very big way. So we're going to pull up that chart and get into it. But before we do, I'm Catherine Urban. I'm an astrologer with over 16 years of astrological immersion, practice, and study. And I'm going to take everything I know about astrology to help provide some semblance of clarity and weather forecast during uncertain times so that we may go forward with greater confidence in our understanding of the energies around. So let's pull up the chart and let's get into it. Let's start with the basics. We've got the Libra new moon occurring at 28 degrees Libra in 21 minutes. This is going down on October 21st, 2025. And what we're running into here, and this is something we're going to continue to see for a little while, is that we've gone through the entirety of Libra season without a new moon. And now, just a day and a half before the sun enters Scorpio, we finally have our Libra new moon. So check out the Libra sector of your chart, and that's where you should feel a tremendous readiness to receive this new moon intention. So sometimes that intention is something that we concoct consciously. Sometimes it's organically arising within us, where we feel a sense of completion and ending with this certain pattern or whatever the Libra area of our chart represents. And now we are setting some fresh intentions, and they are going to be quiet a lot of the time. Like, this is something quiet and personal that we're making an arrangement with within ourselves much of the time. So it doesn't have to be loud and for everyone just yet. So looking at this new moon, it is ruled by Venus in her domicile. So we love that. We have a Venus fully capable of doing Venus things. We talked a little bit about this last time, but Venus is a peacemaker. Venus wants us to have ease, harmony. She wants things to flow. Venus in Libra is really great at finding win-win situations where we can both have something that we want. So something that we're going to be challenged to do during this lunation, during this 2-week umbrella period, is we're going to be challenged to be objective. And I say that because jumping over here, we've got this Mars-Mercury exact conjunction happening, and these two planets are going to be traveling closely together all the way into Sagittarius during this 2-week period. So this Mercury-Mars influence is still very dominating and something that we're going to be working with as Mercury stations retrograde during the next lunation period. But what we have with Mercury and Mars is it's vitriol, it's aggression, it's argumentative, it's defensive and offensive at the same time, it's passionate, and it can be very blunt. Like, the words have an impact right now. And so people can come across as very gruff, very like controversial, even like unmoving and stubborn in what is being commanded or said. And to be quite honest, it is like fighting words. These are fighting words down here. And so what you're going to have is people pressing your buttons, saying things to get a reaction, saying things that upset you. And the challenge, or the invitation rather, with all this Libra energy is to find that middle ground. And when I say it in this way, I'm envisioning like a seesaw. So it's like you can go to extremes, and emotions, the passions will send us into various degrees of extremes. And so the idea of Libra holding the scales is to find that middle ground. Because if I match that energy, if I match that sort of like, you're upset, you're aggressive, you're saying things from a place of hurt, if I match that energy, we are not going to find resolve as quickly. a lot of the time. I mean, hey, sometimes things have to be said. Sometimes you've got to throw down. Like there's a time and place for that. But I think with all this Libra energy, the challenge is going to be to stay in your center and to stay in that place of objectivity and listen. Think about what is being said, what is being communicated to me right now, and how can I stay in my center and respond? How can I hear what you're saying and craft a response that is going to try to de-escalate and also not get walked all over? That's the balance of Libra, is like sometimes the shadow side with Libra is the people pleasing. Like I'm going to say anything to just de-escalate and keep the peace. And that's not what we want to do either. We also want to have our voice in the situation. We also want our desires and opinions and feelings to be heard. And yet, sometimes it's not about fighting, pushing back, defending, matching the energy. Sometimes it's taking a little L so that we can win the war. It's like you lose the battle, but you win the war. And so you may find yourself in a situation where you want to hold up the boundary. You want to stand strong. You want to push back and like not give in. And yet, if you give an inch, that might be all that person needs. So we might be, here are some mantras for us during this Libra new moon is don't sweat the small stuff, pick your battles, protect your peace. And sometimes we want to take the path of least resistance. Okay. So Venus is in her own throne, and we want to keep ourselves that way too. We want to maintain control of the situation. Like Libra is kind of about control in a way. When we think about this is the place where Saturn is exalted. Saturn wants order. Saturn wants control. And so Libra has a reputation for being very surface level. In other words, we're hearing you talk, but we're not hearing the rest of that iceberg underneath that little tip. Okay. And sometimes, like, certainly there can be issues with that, but also it's about diplomacy. It's about finding the middle ground. It's about de-escalating. Something that I'm a Libra sun. Something I often find myself saying is like, what do I say? And that's a loaded statement. Like, what do I say? How do I respond? And again, it kind of comes back to that objectivity of Venus. Like, I can't say everything I'm thinking or feeling, or that's not gonna help anybody. That's not gonna help anybody. So thinking about what do I say? How do I respond? Feel free to take your time to respond. Mercury is in Scorpio right now. It's not, I mean, if it's pushed, it's definitely gonna come out, daggers flying. But Mercury can be strategic in Scorpio. Mars can be strategic in Scorpio as well. So when we're careful about what we say, when we're careful about that, when we're intentional, when we're conscientious of what is the effect that I want this to have, then that is where we get this energy to serve us in the highest of ways. So another layer of this new moon is the square to Jupiter. It's a little bit past the square with Jupiter, but it's still in orb with Jupiter. And so there's a generosity here. There's a generosity with Jupiter. And we want to watch for overdoing, going above and beyond. And maybe that's also what the energy is called for, is going above and beyond to find the win-win. On October 22nd, Neptune is going to retrograde back into Pisces. This is the last time we get to work with Neptune in Pisces. We are never going to see it again in our lifetime until we start reading charts for people who have Neptune in Pisces. And then we'll be like, aw, I remember that time. I will remember this time fondly because I had my spiritual awakening right before Neptune entered Pisces. And when it entered Pisces, I just felt like the rest of the world was experiencing it with me. And I love the music. I love the expansion of consciousness during this period and the growth of things like astrology and tarot and spirituality at large. So I will always remember this period fondly. So Neptune is going to be hanging out for this final stretch in Pisces until January 26th, where it will move into Aries for good. So what we have here is sort of this other side of the coin of Saturn's conjunction with Neptune. We've been talking about this aspect so much, and I've been talking about it so much with my clients too, because so many people are feeling sort of the pressures and the lack of substance, like the lack of something to hold on to, the lack of stability. Like people are describing how it just feels like nothing is certain right now. And that is because of this aspect. Saturn is order. And Neptune there is saying like, yeah, but like we can't stand on this platform any longer because it is no longer supportive. We don't know how to show up because we don't know what the rule book is anymore. And so there's sort of this erosion of the old ways that's happening, and it's impacting people's lives, it's impacting people's livelihoods, it's impacting people's plans for their future. It's impacting any sense of certainty about what the future looks like. And we know with Pluto in a new sign, Neptune going into Aries, Uranus in a new sign, us being in the age of air where we had this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius 2020, the whole world is different post 2020. No one can deny that. No one can deny it. I've come to refer to those times as the before times because life is so, so different. We've endured a collective trauma, and some people are, when you look at the 7 stages of grief, like you see it playing out collectively. It's massive, massive stuff. And we don't talk about it nearly enough. But what we have here with Saturn retrograde in Pisces and Neptune sort of joining in is this more retrospective grief, heaviness. This is like the depths of feeling. When I think about Pisces, I think about the highs and the lows. Pisces is the divine clown with the tear coming out of its eye. Pisces is all about finding something to laugh about even when things are really abysmal. And that's the superpower of Pisces. But with Saturn here, it's heavy and it's harder to find that levity. And so what we have here with the retrospective is sort of remorse for the past, grief for the past. We're looking backwards. We're feeling disappointed here. And I share that because feeling all the feelings is important. Going through that cycle of grief and mourning what could have been or what used to be is an important part in sort of getting to a place where we're ready to formulate how we move forward. It's like a rock bottom. Like you have to hit that low point in order to bounce back up. So there is we're in a parabola right here, and we haven't reached that point where we're about to climb yet. And I don't think we will reach that point until early next year when these two planets finally collide at 0 degrees Aries. So until that happens, we're sort of waiting, and we have to go through this process of facing the reality, facing the disappointment before we can figure out, okay, what does that new dream look like? Because we will. Saturn is going to give form to the Neptunian ideal or vision or dream. We're just not there yet. We're just not ready there yet. So this is going to definitely be a little bit more emo, and we'll probably have more chances to see it, especially later in this forecast. So moving forward, we've got the sun entering Scorpio. That's a good time. It's like spooky season is officially here. We've got Mars in Scorpio too. So the passions, the intensity, the determination of Scorpio, we're feeling it all the more. Right away, the sun is going to come into a square with Pluto. We're going to see this on October 24th. Remember that Pluto is now in Aquarius. So when we think about dramatic expressions or grabs of power, I'm looking at big tech. I'm looking at surveillance. I'm looking at the invasiveness of technology in our lives and who's benefiting from that. I mean, we all use Instagram, here we are, for free, but we know that the exchange rate is like our data and the advertisements and all of that. So, but like, while that might be an immediate way that corporations can turn a profit, what's more nefarious about it is things like Pokemon Go. Like Pokemon Go was designed to spy on us, like to gather data, to gather information, and to also like it was like geo surveying basically. And so that is sort of the what's the purpose of this? What's the underside of this? So I want us to be skeptical of convenience. Like when you can talk to your TV and tell it what you want to put on, sure, that's convenient because you don't have to do the annoying thing of typing it in with the arrows. But it's like, what is the cost of that? What are they're able to listen to everything. And I bring this up because Sun square Pluto, we're going to see it. We're going to see things where you're like, should I be suspicious about that? What's the end goal? What's the end game? And you definitely want to be thinking that way because sometimes an aspect like this will come straight out and there will be authoritarian grabs. There will be authoritarian attempts to grab more and more power for less and less people. And you may see it in a very obvious way. I mean, the sun strives to illuminate it. But also when we think about sun and leadership and Pluto, the nefarious tendencies, the power grabbing tendencies, it's something that we want to be aware of. And us too, we're feeling it. How do we maintain our power in a situation? So that might be something that we are more sensitive to with a sun square Pluto. And thinking about this sort of prickly Mercury-Mars combination, we're going to be skeptical of where people are trying to take advantage of us. You know, we're all the main character of our lives. So we all have this sun energy to some degree. And Pluto is asking, like, what do I do in this situation? You know, we make conscious choices every day around, you know, am I going to sneak this one for myself or am I going to do the right thing? We can see heroism with a sun square Pluto, like exposing something or lifting, like that super mom strength of lifting the car off the baby, like that example. We're going to see displays of power here. So for you, think about in this situation right around the state, like if you're running into a situation that challenges what it means to be powerful, think about that. Where does that power really lie for you? Is it in kindness? Is it in providing? Like, is it in your knowledge? Is it like procuring something that you desire? Where does that power lie? So we're all going to be making some choices there. From October 24th through October 29th, what we're going to find ourselves coming into is this grand water trine. When we have a predominance of water in the heavens, it's going to feel emotional. It's going to feel sensitive. It's going to feel psychic, intuitive. We're feeling a lot of things. We're sensing a lot of things. Like what isn't being spelled out, but you're tapping into. And I want you to trust that. What is your feeling saying? When we think about, it's so interesting. I read a book recently. I'm trying to remember. It was an ancient text. I cannot remember which book it was. It might have been Ptolemy. I don't know. But they were describing the five senses of the body, but then also the five senses of like the psychic body. And I'll have to remember what book it was. It was like an ancient astrology book. But it was talking about the five psychic senses. So I want us to be thinking about that. Like, what are the voices telling you? What is your intuition telling you? What are you feeling when you walk in the room? What are you feeling when you tap into the collective? What are you feeling when you tap into what does it mean to be a human in today's world? So overall, that's the overarching energy. But teasing this apart, I think that this is a grand trine that can help us get unstuck. I've been hearing a lot of people describe that they've been feeling stuck, or they're in a fog, or they're not sure what happens next. A lot of that is deriving from this Saturn-Neptune configuration. But teasing this apart, we've got Mercury in a trine with Saturn, so we can get some clarity there. We can also get some hope and inspiration and aspiration, like reach high, believe in something bigger than yourself with the trine to Neptune. And Jupiter there is putting wind in our sails. Jupiter is saying you can do this. Jupiter is encouraging. Jupiter is uplifting. Jupiter brings us into connection with our people, our family, our support system, our friends, feeling loved, feeling supported. So there's a lot of encouragement here in terms of seeing a situation in a new way, getting clear, but also getting inspired. Same thing, Mars in tenacious, determined Scorpio. Do what you know. You might not have a lot of scope of certainty beyond what is right in front of you. That's part of this foggy energy here with Neptune. But what are you confident about? What do you feel really certain and inspired about in this moment? And you can show up for that, because Jupiter here is encouraging Mars, saying, yeah, you've got the stamina, you've got the energy, you're feeling inspired. Neptune saying the same thing. But the trine with Saturn is a readiness to put in effort, a readiness to work, a feeling like I'm ready to rise in the moment. Like nothing's pressuring me, nothing's forcing me, but I feel ready. In other words, you don't have like a deadline looming over your head, but there's a readiness to get started on something. So this would be excellent for getting started on a project. Maybe that project is 7 months from now. I'm talking to myself because I'm going to be working on I'm going to be starting some research for a lecture that I'm sharing at NORWAC next year. And I'm also going to be lecturing at UAC next year. So I'm actually, I didn't plan it this way, but I'm actually going to be starting that process officially during this time. So get started on something, even if it's something that you don't have to do today, do it. And use that rage. Like if you have it, if you're feeling it, if you're feeling the rage with that Mars Mercury, if you're feeling frustrated, this can help you move that energy, direct it somewhere. And something that came to my mind that I have to share. So I live in Cleveland, and people joke about our football team, the Browns, like, because they just lose all the time. Sorry to any Browns fans out there, but they just constantly lose. And so we've come to refer to the Browns and like the stadium as like a factory of sadness. And that is sort of like what I was looking at when I thought about Saturn and Neptune meeting up in Pisces. It's just like this factory of sadness. But like Mars is determined and motivated and isn't going to accept that. Like, I'm not going to let myself beat down. I'm going to do something about it. So this is, I think, creative, inspired, intuitive. We can get unstuck. We can move it forward. So I've got some good news and a little bit of not so nice news. Starting with Mercury, the planet of communication, moving into Sagittarius on October 29th. Right away, Mercury is going to find itself in the opposition with Uranus. So if you thought Mercury-Mars was fighting words, this is just what the hell? Mercury in Sagittarius is in its detriment. So Mercury really struggles to be an effective communicator here. In fact, Mercury is sometimes saying too much, and we lose sight of what really, why are we sharing? Like, why are we sharing this? So Mercury in Sagittarius, it can feel very outspoken, very opinionated. And here we're going to go off script, especially in a big way with Mercury opposite Uranus. So there are some things about this transit that I really enjoy. I think that social media is a lot more entertaining with Mercury in Sagittarius because I feel like people are just more candid. Like, people say the funniest shit. People laugh at themselves. It's like stupid, silly. I can't believe you just said that. And for people who tend to be a little bit more shy or reserved, this energy encourages them to be a little bit more outspoken and not take the messages so seriously. I mean, the scroll comes and it goes, and then it's forgotten about. And maybe this is viral energy here, like Mercury opposition to Uranus. Like, there's something crazy, there's something earth shattering, there's something that makes your head spin that is kind of circulating around. And so that could be something more serious, like something more on the like political end of things, or it could be something really stupid and entertaining that's just like really off the wall that is showing up in the form of a meme, for example. So this is going to be also just really stimulating. Really, just Mercury in its opposition to Uranus is going to be really mentally stimulating and even perchance overloading. So that's sort of something that we're building up toward. I get the sense that like verbal shots can be fired during this. You might say something that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I just said that. And that may happen on the world stage as well. So that's something where I feel kind of positive and optimistic about, but also really anxious about, like, how is this going to show up and in what way? Because it's an immutable sign, likely we're going to get both. It's going to be a mixed bag. Moving forward, this is the good news. You guys ready for the good news? We are coming up to November 2nd. November 2nd, we've got Venus and Jupiter coming into an exact square. So this is obviously going to be a little bit later in the day on November 2nd. So Venus in her domicile, Jupiter exalted in Cancer. When the benefics get together, it is sweet. But in the square, it can be a little too much even. It's like we're overdoing it. So I'm expecting the weekend of this aspect to be one that's a little bit more indulgent. Like, it might be one where you've got too many plans in a good way. Like, your calendar is overloaded in all the best ways. And it just so happens that while you were trying to be a little bit better with your meal planning and stuff like that, that you're out at all these different restaurants. You're drinking mimosas. There's an excuse to gather and party at brunch. There's an excuse to gather and party in the evening. This is the weekend after Halloween. So it just feels like there's a lot of party atmosphere where by Monday you're going to be ready for a green smoothie. So this is one where the social calendar may be filled to the brim, and there's going to be an abundance of snacks. There's going to be an abundance of sweet and delicious things and lots of whipped cream on top. This is also just an aspect that says, hey, live a little, have some fun, treat yourself, enjoy yourself. That's the meaning of life, is just to be together and to celebrate and to invite the sweetness and ease into our lives. So that is going to do some really nice things for us. And I think even collectively, this is like a peacemaker energy. This is let's provide nourishment, let's provide care, let's provide protection. Let's make sure people are safe. Let's make sure people are fed. Let's make sure we're being equitable here. So I think we might be able to see something move in a positive direction that way. Now, here's where things get a little crazy. November 4th, we've got Mars moving into Sagittarius, again, coming into that exact opposition with Uranus. This is crazy, unpredictable, I'm feeling provoked kind of energy, and I'm going to react in a way that isn't strategic anymore. So this is kind of dangerous, playing with fire, a firework exploding in a million different directions. I get the visual of Mars in Sagittarius is like just shooting an entire clip or whatever, and something's going to hit. Something's going to hit the target. So what I think about that is just like shots going in all directions and something is going to hit. In other words, this isn't the most strategic of a shot. This isn't the most strategic way of taking action, putting ourselves out there, of initiating conflict. It comes about in a chaotic, sort of fiery, provoked sort of way. And the outcome is, it's just nervous. Like there's nervous energy here with Mars, Uranus. Our nervous systems are heightened. And this is where we need to come back to what Uranus and Gemini represents. And it represents division. It really does. There's a lot of evidence, particularly related to United States history, about major world wars that we've been involved in. The United States was involved in a civil war two cycles ago with Uranus in Gemini, the sign of the twins, the division. So we see a lot of division and chaos happening. And right now it's showing up as like this partisan divide, where this extreme between the left and the right has become so polarized. And a lot of that does have to do with big tech and us being in these echo chambers of our own opinions. So that would be the Pluto and Aquarius, whatever it is to keep us scrolling. So here we can't deny what that planet represents. We can't deny that it does represent intellectual chaos, like what is happening, what is going on. It also represents a lot of technological progress, and that's something that we can very much look forward to, perhaps, with Uranus and Gemini. But I would say that this is fighting energy here. This is an aspect where like it could really provoke and stoke tensions, and even take something from a place of tension into a place of conflict. So this is one where I'm not necessarily saying that World War III starts under this aspect, but this is one where I wouldn't be surprised if it really escalated tensions in a way that they didn't need to go. Like they don't need to go there. Again, Mars in Sagittarius is not the most strategic. It's just moving and attacking as it goes. So we will be having more time to work with Mars in Sagittarius. I think Mars in Sagittarius in itself could be really creative. It's seeking inspiration. It's seeking enthusiasm. It's seeking things that it can feel really good about. So that's one way that planet, that transit can inspire us and serve us and elevate us in other ways. Like we're seeking adventure, we're seeking thrills. And that's part of the problem here, though, with the opposition to Uranus. So I'll feel a lot better about Mars and Sagittarius once it gets away from Uranus, and once this Mercury-Mars configuration has separated a little bit. I'll feel a lot better. I think Mars running into Saturn, that can help sort of pump the brakes and add temperance and just say, this is silly, let's stop. But I think Mars feels like it's on a little bit of a rampage here, running in with Mercury, like the verbal attacks, the verbal assaults, the accusations that seem to be baseless in Sagittarius, to be quite honest. And but it could be funny, it could be entertaining. And yeah, with Uranus too. It just feels chaotic. It feels unpredictable. It doesn't feel like we can expect any sort of predictable outcome from this. So we'll just have to see what tensions arise and what conflicts are beginning around this time. So you can use this on a personal level to continue to get unstuck. So going back to that grand trine in water that I was just talking about a week back, we are getting unstuck. We're getting clarity. We're connecting with the vision. We're connecting with the dream. And Mars opposite Uranus helps us to be brave. It helps us to take a risk. It we might do something that surprises ourselves, but hopefully it's coming from a place of authenticity, Uranus, liberation, being authentic, like doing something that may startle and surprise other people, but we know that we've been sort of aligning and waiting for our moment. This could be an invitation to take advantage of the moment. And maybe we aren't prepared. Maybe it catches us off guard, but maybe it is the move we need to make. So Mars with Uranus can be a sudden departure, saying no, like I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not putting up with that anymore. This is the day where I start to be more authentic and true to myself and get out from underneath the heaviness of expectation. And that could show up across the whole spectrum of how we show up in our roles in the world. So that's what I have today for the Libra new moon. We're going to strive to be in balance. We're going to strive to be in that place of objectivity, especially because we know there's a lot of tensions going on around it. But this lunation also offers us a lot of sweetness and the opportunity to recognize where we can take ease when it's available. Like we don't always have to do the hard thing, right? Sometimes it's okay to take that path of least resistance. So that was our Libra new moon forecast. I'm Catherine Urban, and I look forward to catching you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in with me today. For more astrology in your world, you can connect with me on all platforms at Astro Catherine. You can also find me at catherineurban.com, where you can book your next solar return or year ahead forecast. I'm also available for horary inquiries, electional forecasts, and chart rectification. And if you like what you see here, don't forget to like and subscribe. Till next time, bye.